But from what I understand, North Carolina FC, who plays in the USL Championship, is going to end operations effective now that their 2025 season is over. They will not play in 2026. And apparently are just going to come back in 2028 and self-promote themselves into whatever the USL's top division is called at that time. So what do this to me seems like the opposite of the spirit of merit that pro relegation is supposed to bring to the United States. Is this big thing that's been lacking that the rest of the world does that we don't do, and all that. Should a team be able to just say we're not going to play for the next 2 years, and then we'll come back when this whole great big thing that everyone's excited about kicks off? So any initial thoughts to your reaction to a team deciding to just take 2 years off and come back when things look a little bit better?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting kind of look at to kind of what American soccer currently is kind of pre-pro rel, as, it is at the moment. But I think you kind of see the downsides of it. You're probably going to see a lot more of this, probably maybe not more before the league actually starts, but maybe obviously if teams get relegated, it's going to be very easy for them to cease operations because of the revenue that's going to be lost, and what have you. You nailed it, Tom. It's basically, they're taking a season off, kind of getting ready, and then in 2027 coming back, to be at the top, which I personally don't think you should be able to do. Again, kind of going against the spirit of the game. It's something we have seen before in the USL. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but I know there are a couple clubs who kind of started out in USL League One or lower leagues, and were able to essentially pay their way into the championship. But um, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, and it's also a byproduct of the standards that are for the top division of USL that's coming in. You have to have that stadium requirement. You have to have all these different requirements to be able to make it. So I'll be interested to see if more clubs, hopefully again it doesn't happen, but it's just kind of a product of building a system from the ground up. And, for a team, like North Carolina, I think you should be able to apply, um, for that league, but, just to essentially, close up shop and come back. I don't know if that's necessarily, what what the, what the sport should be.
Yeah, I mean, Oliver, do you think should they be trying to build something in the meantime, build the fan base, have because one of the other thing too that can't be replicated or replaced is the history of these leagues, the history of these clubs. You can't. There's no going back 120 years, right, for really any club in the U.S. So I feel like the last thing you want them to do is just stop playing for a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, like, what are we doing here? Right. And like in this case, NCFC previously, the Railhawks, they've been around for I think 15 years, something like that. And they kind of got previous with this, right? In terms of like, what league are we playing in? Are we going to relegate, right? They dropped down to USL 1 for a season. They were around during all of the kind of like NASL, USL stuff, a decade ago. And it just does, they were trying to go to MLS, right? They were trying to make that jump. They're trying to get a stadium built, and then obviously that didn't happen. And in some ways, it's kind of indicative of just the larger problem, or one of the larger problems around soccer, is that everyone is chasing that, like, we want a piece of the $1 billion TV contract, and if we can't do that, we're going to take our ball and we're going to go home. And that's it. And that's all there is. And I think part of that is because there's no pyramid, right? That doesn't solve all problems. If you go over to England, like, there's teams every season that are like, oh God, we're going to go out of business because we don't have any money, right? Like Morecambe, Sheffield Wednesday this year were like really both in dangerous situations. So it's not that solves everything, but it's sort of like there's no way to climb to that top tier, right? If you're in the fifth tier, you look at Leicester, years ago, you can climb to the top. If you're willing to be committed and you really want a piece of those billions in the Premier League, you can get there, right? You can get to the very top table. You can play against Real Madrid in the Champions League if you commit, if you have a plan and you execute. That's not the case here. So, for Steve Malik and NCFC, it's like, well, we tried to get into MLS, we couldn't. what's the point of all of this? I'm just going to lose a couple $1 million a year forever. I don't know. I don't really want to do that, And I get that, like from a perspective. I don't have millions of dollars to lose, but I get that of being like, I don't want to, just be signing up to lose a bunch of money every year with no hope of anything more. Particularly for owners who don't always sound like they're particularly committed to the idea of like soccer, right, in this country. Like they're not like, I love this game, I want to have this game in my town, right? And so I get it. But I don't know, I'm with Sam, like, and I'm with you, Tom. Like, what are we doing here, right? Like if we could just like disappear for a couple of years and then buy our way back into the top tier, like what's the point of any of this? What's the point of the season? What's the point of winning trophies if it's just like I can show up with $1 billion and be like, I want to play in the top league? And I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm just not about that.